Recording. Yeah.
It's a bit laggy right now.
Yeah, that could be my
All
Wi-Fi.
right. No, it's probably definitely. Um, ha- this is the first time I've ever used Zoom. Um, can you hear me okay?
Not true. We used Zoom a few years ago.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, when the world shut down. Oh, he's even got a mic. Nice.
Professional, dude.
Yeah, so
Uh,
if you hook up that mic and if you go to settings, you make sure you select that mic.
yeah, I tried to do that. I think I think it's good. Like I did a little test. It got me to do a microphone. I got headphones in too. Uh, I can hear you fine though. Like the video's lagging a bit. Maybe it'll correct itself like in the recording or something.
Right.
Can you hear any of that going on outside or
No, no.
okay, good.
So where do we start? Do you want me to just jump right into it? I got a question came to mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So I realized that in the past when I would grow in life that I would really only notice it when somebody would compliment or make me aware of it. And recently I've kind of been noticing the growth happening like in the moment, which is kind of neat where like when you take the stage and you're like, holy shit, like I'm actually shedding skin right now and it's happening right in front of me and I can't physically see it, but you can feel it so much. And so I was gonna ask you, like having done the yoga teacher training, like you probably just learned so much and experienced so much with that. And you're gonna learn down the road too, like lessons from it. It'll take time. Some of it takes time to digest, but I'm sure there was some digesting like all in the moment too. What was that all like? Like, do you feel like you've shedded skin and like kind of became a new Nathan from just a what is it, 2 weeks or like how long is the yoga teacher training?
So the yoga teacher training was um 22 days and they say it takes 21 days scientifically to form a new habit. So they deliberately made the training 22 days, right? And you wake up from 5 a.m. uh to do pranayama breathing, morning meditation, prayer, right into yoga, and your whole day just goes like that, right? And then you go all the way up until like 8 p.m. And then you repeat the process 6 days a week up until you leave. Um, but I'll rein it back into your question and dude, just coming here, like there's been so much like transformation. And when you were asking that question, we had an opening ceremony as well in the yoga teacher training and a closing ceremony. And it was interesting because like they're very traditional. Like if you see like right here, uh, sorry, I'm just waiting for the lag. You see that bracelet, right? Like
Yeah.
um, that's significant to the Buddhist culture and the Hindu culture. Just Eastern it's ancient, right? Like practices and stuff. So if you have a teacher or like a religious teacher or something, tie that bracelet around you. It's really significant um, here. And anyway, so getting back to the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, I got two bracelets, and one I got at the opening and one at the closing. But they're very like honorable and like is very community oriented and they're in the circle we had all of our teachers and then all of the students, right? And in the center there was this lady and she was like this motherly figure and she was only there like for the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, and she helped to initiate this place. So she wasn't necessarily one of the teachers, but she was just like this guide, and she had like this significance. But um, anyway, the reason I brought her up was because she only seen us at the beginning of the ceremony and at the end, and she was like just this wise woman, right? And she said that she sensed all of our energies shift and change within those 3 weeks.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and I didn't necessarily really consider it. Like I knew shit was happening, like just based on other people's experiences. Like it was pretty fucking hardcore for some people. Like for like I feel, and even in myself, there was like a bit of like things were coming up, but like I've done some stuff like this before, so it wasn't overly just, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot to work through. Like there's nothing that I haven't been addressing, but some people don't do that stuff, right? So like
Right.
going into this, like it was intense for some people. And but yeah, so she brought that up, and then she was right, and like it hit me in that moment in the closing ceremony that there has been so much layers shed amongst my peers, amongst myself, a lot of things that I considered, so many things I learned. Um, like, yeah, I had this one teacher. He was a philosophy teacher. He grew up in an ashram in India. From the time he was 8 years old, he's been meditating, and his name is Chandra, which means moon. And he was very yin, like just this small little guy, like spoke very gently. Like if you weren't, he's not gonna raise his voice to try to get everybody to hear him. It's like if you're not coming in close, then you don't need to hear it, right? Like that's just how he was, and like he would take silence all the time. He would start the class with silence, end the class with silence. It's like he wouldn't say any more than what needed to be said. And when he said things, it was impactful, very impactful. And the biggest take home thing I took from him, which was so amazing, because like I had this like affection for him, and like it's like a guru, dude. Like I've never had my own guru, and he's not my guru, but like just being in his presence was really cool. And so like I had this sort of like admiration and affection for him as he was teaching our class, right? And I'm part of the class, but like toward the end, we had to share our experience, how yoga relates to our life and stuff. So I talked about martial arts, and I wasn't even going to share my story, but another girl, um, through her story, I felt like I had some things to offer, and I was like, this is something I need to share. I think other people can benefit from it. So I and another girl teacher that we had uh, was talking to me about martial arts, and Chandra is actually her husband, which was a whole nother mind fuck to me, because I was just like, wow, like somebody like him could have a wife. Like I was just because yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother side tangent. I was just like, whoa, I never thought that that was possible. And he touched on that a bit too, which was actually really cool. But the one thing that he taught me that was so cool for me, like first of all, the history of yoga and how ancient it is, and Sanskrit too. I learned a lot about Sanskrit, which is the language, like Shavasana, Asana, like all that is Sanskrit language, and it's the oldest language in humankind, right? India is like it's I think the origins of people almost. Like I'm not a historian or anything, but like it's definitely ancient as fuck. And I so much I learned, right? One thing, I'll get to where I'm going, but the year here isn't 2023. I don't know if you knew that or whatever, or if I told you, I think I told you like over text or whatever, but the year is 2566 based on the Buddha, right? And the reason I bring that up is because um the Buddha here is huge, and the Buddha came from India, and I don't know if you knew that or not, but I actually didn't know that. Um, I for I don't know why I didn't know that, but yeah, he came from India, and then you know Zen, right? Like you've heard of Zen before, right? So Zen meditation and stuff. You've probably heard of the Shaolin monks and the Shaolin temples.
Yeah.
Right? They're the ones that wear the orange robes and shave their heads bald and do kung fu, right? The it's 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 another it's ancient too, but what this is what Chandra taught me was that I wish I knew the name, but it's like body sova or like that's not it. If somebody's listening to this, if we record it and share it, there was a monk that came from India about 900 or 1,000 years, roughly around that many years after the Buddha, and he brought the Indian scriptures, the yoga teachings, right? So like to China, and those teachings turned into Zen meditation, and that was the beginning of the Shaolin Temple and martial arts as we know it. All martial arts come from the Shaolin Temple, right? So like that connecting piece for me was just like, oh my God, because deep down inside me, I've said this before so many times to people that yoga is the ultimate martial art, right? Even when if you go back in the history, like the the Indians and the yogis, where they were, like the reason they went up into the mountains was because it's the same thing with Tibet, right? Like they didn't want to fight back because they didn't believe in that. So like when the colonial people came to conquer them, they didn't believe in violence and stuff, so they moved up into the mountains where these other people couldn't exist. Um, but anyway, that connecting piece was like, I was like, that's my entire trip is worth it. And it came from just this guru, little soft-spoken man. And I know for some people it would be like they wouldn't understand why I say yoga is the ultimate martial art, but basically what you learn in martial arts is to treat your enemy with kindness, love, dignity, respect, all these things. And when you do that, there is no enemy, right? Nobody wants to fight somebody that is treating them like a family member, right? And what you learn is that the only fight is within yourself, right? So like that's the reason yoga to me is the ultimate martial art because you avoid all of that by going inward. And that's what you learn through martial arts too. It's even though it's like you learn combat and stuff at the core essence of it. Um, once you're in enough fights and once you've studied that and you've mastered violence, um, what you end up discovering is that violence is useless. Um, there's nobody gains anything from violence. It's a very primal, fear-based energy, right? It's the opposite of love. So knowing that exists in martial arts and with my path and everything. Being able to connect everything back to the Shaolin Temple, which Bruce Lee, like in those movies, Bruce Lee, like Enter the Dragon, it's Bruce Lee with the Shaolin monks, like talking to his teacher, right? And I remember one of the lines in Enter the Dragon is like, "There is no I," right? And for a lot of people, that doesn't really make sense, but that if you study yoga, that's what you end up learning too. It's like the dissolution of your ego, right? That I am you, you are me. We're all part of this thing. Um, so yeah, to be able to connect yoga and martial arts and realize there's a difference between like a fighter and a martial artist. I know that, right? A fighter is somebody that is just violent and is operating on violence, right? The difference between a martial artist and a fighter is that the martial artist is reflecting on what he's doing and is considering and studying that violence and trying to work through it. And then the yogi and the martial artist to know that yoga came first to me was just fucking amazing. Also, that that rant can kind of dissipate, but the fact that there's so many temples here, like I've already been to a few of them, right? And it's it's kind of like churches back in Canada. You know how there's churches all over the fucking place. It's like that, but also a little bit different. Like at least for me, like there's monks walking around these temples, and like it's all this like dragons and the way that the architecture of it, it's like it's gold and they're beautiful. It's just a really spiritual place. If you allow it and if you're connected to that. It's also like Thailand's also this party place for other people, right? Like even Muay Thai. Muay Thai is like, I guess I understand the culture a little bit of Muay Thai, but even for me, I'm just like, wow, that is such a fucking trip. Muay Thai. I went to a Muay Thai fight a couple nights ago, and dude, they're kids. They're kids, right? Like I said to my friend, I'm like, man, how old do you think these kids are? And I've read Muay Thai books, and I knew this conceptually, right? Like I knew that these kids come up and they come from fighting families and they fight for their families, all this stuff, right? It's like they're working, they're fighters. That's what they do. Um, I knew all that, but to experience it and to see like 2 14, anywhere from like 12 to 14-year-old young men. I'm gonna call them young men because like, dude, 12 and 14-year-olds are not doing this where I come from.
Right.
They fucking they went for it. Like, dude, I come from a fighting background in martial arts. Like they they fucking went at it and they fought like adolescents too, like just carefree. There was like times where like there's absolute no defense. Like they're just guns blazing. And it went like 4 rounds and the one kid got knocked down like 2 3 maybe 4 times. And I was like in my mind, I was like, this kid is losing. Then he fucking ends up knocking out this other kid. And I was just like, holy fuck, they're made differently. And they're only small. Like Thai people are small. And then the day after I went to had my first Muay Thai training session and they're savages. Like, and I mean that they're they're not savages. They're actually the most nice people ever too. It's this weird paradox. But like there's a reason Thailand has never been conquered. And it goes, it's the same thing with Vietnam. Like the Vietnamese, when the US tried to uh, conquer, remember, in the 60s, Vietnam spanked fucking the US like badly. Um, it's just, there's something about the culture here that it's like this is their land and you don't take that. But anyway, the training, like, fuck, dude, it's another level here. Like, um, and they push you, but it's hard to describe. But I was training with this Thai guy, and I remember having the thought, like, I'm just hitting pads with him, right? And I remember having the thought, I would never want to face this person in like a battle ever. Cause like he's only holding pads for me. And like and there's a language barrier too. So he's just like right punch, left punch, and like this broken tie. So I'm just following, it's like this physical language that I've been learning. So like that's the only way we're really communicating is like through this thing where he's holding the pads for me. I'm the one doing the fucking punching and kicking. But when he tells me to block, so like he's about to kick me and he's like guard up, it's like the second he says guard up, it's like the first couple times I didn't understand what he was saying. And I had to learn, like, dude, Nate, get your guard up. This Thai, fucking ancient Thai guy, he's probably like 100 years old. His shins look like they've kicked down a million bamboo trees. Like this guy's just fucking pure steel, kicking me, and like he kicked me in the knee, and I was like, oh my fucking God, like I need to block everything. Like there's no yeah, he's not trying to take it easy on me. He's like training me to fight. But anyway, the level here is just like I was fucking exhausted too. Like the pace that they make you have is it's incredible. But yeah, that's only one element of like uh I feel like that was like a major part of like the yoga part and then the martial arts. Do you have any questions? Thanks for listening. That was you're very receptive to all of that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that you got to connect with the martial arts and yoga piece because that's so important to you. We were at
Yeah,
a philosophy night the other night, and she'd asked us kind of why we're all called to yoga and what it means to us, and everybody gave a different answer. And you probably did the similar thing at the YTT training. And yeah, I guess my answer was one of the things I started doing during yoga is even though it is like pretty individual at times because you're so focused on your breath and like trying to be present and focus on your balance, like you kind of forget that there's all these other people in the room. And so I started doing like as you're going into warrior, like almost trying to do it at the same time as the people beside you, and you kind of become this whole like unit doing these poses, right? Instead of just your
yeah,
individual focus. And I mean, in hot yoga, like it's even more intense because you're so focused on your breath and you really forget about the people beside you. But when you can kind of connect to that unit, that's really cool. And like you're saying, connecting inward. And if everybody's connecting inward, then you're all connecting to the presence. And so yeah, I'm sure everyone had a different reason for being at the YTT. And I think that's really cool, like noticing when you can bring value to a conversation. Like sometimes it's great to just not say anything and you're like, okay, this is a good moment for me to listen. But when you're able to gauge kind of somebody's perspective and if you feel like you could bring value to that, I think that's always really neat to be aware of and to how you can add if you're adding by sharing something or if you're adding by just listening and being receptive. And so yeah, like what were some of the other like reasons people were at the YTT? Like were they different? And because like you said, maybe you'd been through some of that stuff before and processed some of that stuff, and maybe some of that stuff will be processing in the next month or two, right? From your YTT training that, yeah.
Yeah. Good questions. Yeah, you're right. Like I've been saying, like I didn't know how it was gonna be like leaving this spot, like this tiny little yogi community of like there's no sex, there's no we're eating vegetarian food, there's no alcohol, no drugs.
No
Um,
caffeine? Was there coffee?
there actually was coffee. But only you only get like this tiny much in the morning, right? Like it was very like disciplined and
Yeah.
um so the reasons that people were there all varied. Not everybody actually wanted to be a yoga teacher. Um, some people didn't make it through. Like
Interesting.
one yeah, one thing I learned
That's not the
lately
first
has
time I
been,
that's not the first time I've heard that. I heard that from another
dude,
yeah. So yeah, what tell
yeah,
share about that, like as in it was just too much devotion all at one time to the
yeah.
willpower wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, I'll share what my perception of it is. There's so many stories that I can actually tell you. This is good. I'm glad you're reining me back to the yoga. No, because it's it's really good to reflect on it and to share. Like
You
our
know what?
teachers were
Before
talking.
yeah, before you answer that, I think when you're traveling, because you're so consumed and present with your a sensory overload and excited for the day, that yeah,
Yeah, and the next chapter.
yeah, we often forget when we're traveling to take a reflection. And I always do that on the plane ride home. I'll journal a lot, or because yeah, you tend to like not even journal when you're traveling too, because there's just so much happening. So until you have those down moments on a train or something. So yeah, it is kind of neat when you do reflect because it is also present and it's so important to digest those while you're there.
Yeah. For sure. And I got like these two sort of experiences like orbiting each other, right? Half of it's yoga, the other half is like martial arts in
Right.
Thailand, at least in my mind.
And bugs
Um,
and
dude, the bugs? Did you say bugs?
yeah.
No, the actually surprisingly, the bugs have not been bad at all. Um, but okay, I'll bring it back to the yoga community
Yeah.
and some of the experiences. One thing I learned watching a movie actually with Keanu Reeves, where Keanu Reeves plays the Buddha. He plays an Indian guy. It's called Little Buddha, I think. It was actually a pretty good movie if you can get past the fact that um, Keanu Reeves is an Indian. But in that movie, there was something where he said a string, right, on a guitar or a sitar or any musical string. If you don't tighten it enough, it won't play, right? It's slap. If you tighten it too much, it snaps and it won't play, right? So it's needs to be that perfect tension and that perfect middle way, right? So it was interesting because one girl left because I feel like she was not, she just, let's call it spade to spade. She seemed to be a little bit lazy and unmotivated and the type of person that when things get challenging, it's I could be doing better things, right? Um, I'll leave it at that. And then another maybe just lacks discipline or something. And then so to me that's like the string that's just not tightened at all. And then another girl. was there for 500 hours, right? She was doing the 500-hour teacher training all at once. She was fasting. She basically wasn't saying anything. Like she was trying to live off air,
Okay.
like a breatharian. And surprisingly, she got sick and couldn't continue, right? So to me, that was like too much too soon. What the fuck are you? You trying to walk on water in this next 500 hours? Like, what's going on? Um, and our teachers were trying to tell us that, like just because you finish this yoga teacher training doesn't mean you go home and now you're like this holy man trying
Guru.
to bless everybody. Like, chill out, like fucking relax. But yeah, so one girl, I've met so many cool people, right? I met this Austrian couple. She had an experience where she was younger too, where she like they were kind of going for it early on too. And then I remember having a conversation with the guy in that couple. Like they came together. They actually broke up when they were there, because they both it was intense, dude. Like for real. Like so many people were like breaking down in tears in meditation, and like a lot of shit was coming out for people. Uh, and anyway, this girl, she ran off into the jungle one day, like out of nowhere, and like she basically just said that she was kind of like possessed and like overtaken by like this urge to go be one with nature. And I remember I was going for my walk one day, and I was walking with my other friend, and I'm not going to use her name. Just she's super cool. I'm friends with her. I'm just not going to use her name. But I'm like, there's blah blah blah. Like, what is she doing? And then she's climbing out of the river, right? And I'm just like, so we keep walking, and I was just like, hey, what's up? Blah blah blah. And I was just in the space of like, my teacher said early on something really important, which was allowance and acceptance. He also said that our emotions are our most powerful um, driving force in the human experience, which was really impactful on me. Anyway, so I seen her climbing out of the river, and I was my mantra kind of for the whole time there, because also everybody's sharing this space together, and not all energies are going to be like clicking, right? So it's like there was some people that were just like, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna kind of steer away from, and it's not, but I didn't really feel too much of that, but other people weren't as like patient with each other. Anyway, this girl, like I actually had no issues with her, but I could just tell that she was like this the couple that I'm talking about, they were like fasting too, and they had like a holy not holy, but like a silent day and everything. Like they were pretty intense at the beginning, and I talked to the guy after because he came up to me looking for advice, and he told me he had just broken up with his girlfriend because they were so involved in the yoga path. And I just basically kind of told him like, dude, don't make any big decisions right now, right? Like I loved both of them, and they were I still do, and they ended up getting back together at the end, which was really cool. But in the middle of this journey, it was just like fucking everybody was just like, um.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So that was one, and then another girl, my roommate was just like, dude, she cried so much, like a lot, which is okay. Like good, that's her path. There was, and then the other group, the 300-hour group that I was with, they were just like they had a lot of drama going on. So there was all of that. It's like just because we're at a yoga teacher training or whatever doesn't mean everybody's like this super yogi. It wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so different levels of what where people are at and stuff. Uh, what's this remaining time here thing?
Yeah, we only got 3 minutes left.
Yeah,
So
do you have any I got so much to share. I know we're limited for time.
yeah, like what time is
Um,
it? What time is it in Thailand right now?
it's 12:11
Like
p like
are you going to bed soon?
I'm fine right now. Like I kind of like it's midnight, but
All right,
I'm in the now.
I'm gonna do a call at 12:30 um in 20 minutes, and it's probably only gonna be a 15-minute call.
Okay,
If
we'll
you
do part two.
if you want to keep talking after that, I'll text you.
Yeah, I'm
But
down.
if you're tired, then we'll do a different day. But yeah, that's really interesting to learn. Yeah, like you said, some people aren't even there for the for to the they don't
To teach.
get to teach. They're just doing it for themselves. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm loving this experience of just feeling as much as I can. Whether it's when I'm
yeah,
sitting, breathing meditations, or going for walks, or like, just trying to really feel what your body is telling you. And especially when, like, if your mind is on something, and it's like, okay, like, what do I need to feel here? Like, what is it?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm excited about breathing techniques and just becoming more whole and integrated with all those emotions that are coming up. And so it's exciting and you never know when they're going to come up. It's just about paying attention when they do come up, that you're not like pushing them down or distracting yourself with something. And
yeah.
yeah.
Um, Dude, when I came here, I was struggling with anxiety a lot. And like, there's been moments in my life where like I've been super calm, peaceful, at ease in myself, like still. And then I drifted away from that. And then when I came here and I went through that yoga thing, and started learning about meditation, like I want to talk in the next part about my three teachers. I touched on one of them, the philosophy teacher, but like all three of them were so impactful in different ways, right? The Asana teacher blew my mind with like his ability, his sense of humor. And then our meditation teacher, like he was the one that taught me about the emotions and like the allowance and the acceptance.
Yeah, let's talk
Anyway, we
about
can,
that. Yeah.
yeah, next part.
Yeah. Sense of humor. Yeah, that's so like I'm trying to incorporate so much more of that in my life, just all the time. Just like throughout my day, looking for little things that to be creative, to how can you see that upside down? How can you find a joke in that? How can that be creative?
Yeah,
And like and then when you do find the things that are funny, like repeating them, because you know like you're gonna get a laugh. It's like when you build those memories with people, you're like, they're gonna laugh at this because you built that. But yeah, let's talk about that. It's probably gonna end.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so you having a good time?
Dude, I'm having such a fucking good time. It's yeah, there's it's been like it's hard to, as you know, like I'm sure on your Europe trip and everything, like I'm midway through, right? So it's like it's hard to even process everything because like yeah, I'm not done. Like tomorrow I'm going to go train Muay Thai again. Um but we left off the last conversation, like the first part, I mean, with the yoga teacher training and I was touching a little bit on my anxiety, like living in the stress of the Western world and trying to be an adult and everything, and trying to compensate for like not having enough time to meditate or to like create space in your life. And like the analogy is like when you shake a bottle, like if there's dirt in the bottle, right? You keep shaking it, it's going to be cloudy, right? And that's our mind. But do we just ever let it just settle, right? And that's kind of like what meditation is. Um, and yeah, the real point that like I've done a lot of meditation in the past like 22 days or whatever, and the one thing I was taught was just like, which I already kind of knew, but like it was good relearning the stuff. Like meditation isn't about emptying your mind. It's not that at all. Like it's about just separating yourself from your thoughts and like bringing awareness to those thoughts and just realize like the thoughts and patterns that are occurring when you're trying to just calm your mind, still your mind, um, is to remove yourself from it and become the awareness, right? And the observer. And essentially that's your higher self, right? It's like your mind is a tool and everything, but like it's only a part of you in the same way that like your hand is a part of you, but you can stop moving your hand if you wanted to, right? Like, so why can't we stop our thoughts and like just come into our truth and the our nature? And that's really what meditation is. And like I really found a state of peace. And like I was also talking to you a bit about like the the anxiety I was getting in cars and stuff. And like I've gotten a bit of that on the trip, like especially early on. But I can say like since going through the meditation and like the yoga teacher training and stuff, like that that's kind of disappeared, at least for the time being, which is fucking really nice. I think it's also helpful to like that everything here is like I can get Grab, it's called. It's like Uber, except there in Asia there's an app called Grab, and everything here, like, well, not everything, but there's so many scooters here and like motorbikes and shit. So like I can get if I need to like zip across, if I need to go somewhere or something, like I can call a Grab and it's like within a couple minutes there's like a motorbike outside waiting for me. And like you just jump on the back of this fucking Grab bike and you got no fucking helmet. And like this is what they do here.
Yeah.
Everybody's just whipping around like it's a really stress-free, like different way of life here. So there, and I don't get anxiety in that context. It's so fucking strange. Where back at home, I was getting it being in a fucking vehicle, like a normal car, which it that doesn't really make any logical sense. Anyway, and then another thing that has kind of like helped is the fact that like you just drive around in the back of like a pickup truck here. Everybody does that. Which is again, it's less safe than the shit that was causing me like real disturbances and like anxiety, where to the point where like it was like extremely uncomfortable for me. But it just goes to show you this is all part of your mind. Like your mind's creating it.
Hmm.
So yeah, going through that process and getting back in touch with myself, like I feel like a real sense of peace and at ease with life again. It's really nice. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about my three teachers. Like I had
Yeah,
a philosophy.
let me
Go
let me
ahead.
let me say before you go into that. Yeah, I wonder if it's people in Thailand, maybe they're more present and in the moment. They're not like projecting this energy from our thoughts all the time. So say when you're in Canada, people are driving, the just that collective energy, like that we are more in our heads and we're projecting just kind of scattered energy. Whereas maybe in Thailand, like they're just more present and like you said, a little bit less stress. being projected everywhere. So it's also you just being in the moment more, and you're probably not in your head as much. And so you're
Yeah.
allowing yourself to relax, which is pretty cool. And it's like good distractions. It's like when we're in or we're distracted by the moment is kind of because we're just so consumed by it that it detaches us from our thoughts. And then when our thoughts come in, maybe they're like creative and beautiful and they're more feelings. Maybe we're not thinking as much, we're just feeling more.
Yeah. I feel like the COVID and being locked down for 2 years was like a big part of it too. Whereas like halfway across the planet, it's like I've re-immersed myself back into real life, and like getting on a plane to fucking fly across the ocean. It's like yeah, to like not trip out about what the fuck you're doing. Like I
Yeah.
feel like that's part of it too. Sometimes like when I'm driving on the freeway, I'm tripping out the fact that like I know it's so stupid, but like I'm flying down the highway at like 140 miles an hour. And I'm just like, holy fuck, like this is it's crazy. But like, yeah, when you're not engaged in that and like you're told they'll be locked down and that the world's this big fucking scary place, like that had an effect on me. Also, like I probably spent 2 years like just boop, 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 boop. You know what I mean? So much that's not healthy for our minds. And like our minds aren't meant to consume so much fucking information. It's like it's
Mhm.
overload. So like getting away from that, right? I wasn't on my phone in the like at the yoga place either. I'm working through my physical body, um, my mental body, my emotional body, like in the process of yoga. Um, yeah, just working on myself in every way imaginable, right? Whereas like back at home during the pandemic and shit, like I'm basically doing everything opposed to that. Like I'm consuming all this negative information, like everything's fucking political. Uh, that just got overwhelming where like I didn't feel like at home anymore. Like it's constantly just political and like didn't feel like I had a safe space. Which it's not necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. It's just like how I was feeling. And that I felt like I needed to get away and do something for myself, which I did, and it's been it's been fucking really really healthy for me to do this.
Yeah,
Um,
best time of your life or what?
it's definitely one of the best um, moments of my life for sure. Like just something about travel, as you know, that is like it's all these new experiences. Like you're going through this metamorphosis. Like um, yeah, it's just I don't want to say it's overwhelming. That's that's is what I want to say, but like it's not overwhelming in a bad way at all. Like it's just it's incredible to be like I was joking with my friend the other day, like I used to go to the Asian market back in Canada, right? Like I love going to Chinatown and like I'd get the incense that are like yellow and red, like the ones that come from here and just like random shit like that, right? And this was shit that I was attracted to as a young, you know, late teen, early adult, not even knowing really where it came from,
Right.
just being like, oh, that Buddha looks cool, right? Like, what the fuck is all that about? So then, uh, the joke that I was saying with my friend was like, but here, like, you go to the 7-Eleven, everything is Asian, right? Like, it's the shit in the 7-Eleven is not the same, right? You go to McDonald's, like I looked the number one combo. I just walked into McDonald's just to see what it was like, and the number one combo is fucking the samurai burger. I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. Um, and yeah, and you can get rice at McDonald's here. It's like, what the fuck? Um,
Yeah, dude.
but yeah,
In Portugal, the McDonald's has like there was a double decker McDonald's and it had like these gargoyle statues in front of it.
yeah,
I'm like, this is like a fancy McDonald's. Like,
yeah. Actually, there was a Ronald McDonald with like fucking namaste hands, like out here. I'm just like, wow, McDonald's is fucking will capitalize in whatever market, you know. Like, um, but yeah, but the joke was like going to like the Asian market in Canada. You can go to like the white person market in like they have like certain shops and shit where like you can only get like imported stuff for white people or like, you know, Westerners. Not that I go to those places, but it's cool because like I was the type to go to these Asian markets. So like I've already kind of explored this culture in a lot of ways as much as I could back at home. So like being here now is fucking incredible. And to bring it back to the yogis and the yoga journey, like one thing I realized that I also really love and would love to explore, and it's actually on high on my list now. I want to go to India. Like being around, I have three Indian teachers. One was Chandra, which I touched on earlier, the meditation teacher. Uh, he was basically like the philosophy guy, like really dove into the spiritual side of yoga and the history of yoga and what yoga is really all about. Like in the West, we consider yoga to be like this fucking physical thing, and that's not what yoga is. Like yoga, it's meditation first and foremost, and all the asana, right? So you know how shavasana, everything like it all ends with ana. So asana means like posture or like the form, physical form, and it's all based on like nature's reflections, right? So like cobra pose, like sun salutation. It's all about nature, right? It's just in Sanskrit. So like Surya Namaskara A. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's just the Sanskrit term for like sun is Surya. Namaskara is like the salutation. It's the greeting of the sun, right? And you do it in the morning and at night. So our yoga was all tailored to this, right? Like you greet the sun at the morning, Surya Namaskara. I'm greeting the sun salutation. And then you do that in the evening too. You're greeting the sun as it goes back down. And you're in tune with the harmony and the inner workings of the fucking universe, right? It's like when you really go into yoga, it's way the fuck more than Lululemon pants. You know what I mean? So Chandra, he was that one teacher, and then I had two other teachers, and one was he. I like to think of him as like more of the mind. He was like dealing with our mind and like teaching us like uh the anatomy of yoga and like the breathing practices of yoga. He was also our meditation guy. So he would take us into meditation and he was a wicked dude too. Really cool. And then the other teacher who was just our asana teacher, right? The guy who would teach us the lead us through the actual yoga as we know it, right? Like the all the physical workout element, right? And the whole point of doing the asana, it's only one branch of the yogic tree, as I've come to learn, and which I'd love to share more about. Yeah, but it's all about lengthening your spine to sit in meditation. That's
huh.
the entire point, and to relax your body, only to go into deeper states of meditation.
It's all
That's the entire point of
just
yoga.
like a warm up. Like the whole
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
true.
the whole point is so that you can sit comfortably in shavasana.
No, not even shavasana. In an upright
In an
meditative.
upright, yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, it's true. And the way that this was structured, like I said, it was like we did Surya Namaskara, or like we did morning yoga. So to greet the sun as the sun's rising, it was like very fucking in tune. And then in the evening, we would do it again. And then after, we would do breathing practices in the morning. And then in the evening after our yoga, after doing 2 sessions of yoga, doing all the breathing, everything would lead us up to the meditation. And I have to say, dude, like we would be sitting in this tiny shala, where literally like you couldn't stand up, like you had to duck because it was like so small, like it was short. Everybody was like whacking their head. It was like, be mindful of where the fuck you are, otherwise you're gonna whack your head on the cement thing. Not that that matters, but like, and then it was just this mosquito net around it, and you could hear just the sounds of the jungle. Like it's just like bugs and everything, and like so you the atmosphere was incredible, but like it would be late at, well, not late at night, but like the sun would have been gone down, and we're just going into our meditation, and then we have our meditation teacher like lead us through these fucking deep ass meditations, like everything very structured and systematic. And like yoga, when you break it down, like the triangle pose and everything, it's so mathematic and like systematic. And there's 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga, right? So like I'll name them if I can remember, because our teacher would get us every class to go through them. So yama, it means external observation. So you observing the external realm, right? Everything that's outside of yourself. So that's yama. The second one is niyama, which is internal observation. So everything that's happening on the inner world, right? The third one is asana, which is the physical postures and stuff that you do. The fourth one is pranayama, meaning energy, like the breath, but prana means energy and life force. And the when you're breathing um, in yoga, as you, I don't know if you know this or not, but you probably do, but like the most important thing in yoga is the breath, right? So like everything is synchronized to the breath. And my philosophy teacher told us like there was an experiment, this ancient, it's a story, right? I'll give you the fable. He's much better at telling it than me. This is my first attempt, but uh, he's talking about the senses, okay? And he said all the senses got together and went on like decided they were trying to figure out who was the supreme sense of the human experience, right? So the eyes went on holiday, right? So there was no eyes. Um, and lo and behold, when the eyes came back, they seen the organism or the human, and they couldn't see anymore, but he was still getting around. He was still functioning, right? But with limited ability. Then the ears went on holiday to see what happened, and like same story, right? The taste, everything went on holiday, and then came back and discovered, uh, uh it's he's still functioning, he's still alive. Then the breath went on holiday, right? And all of a sudden, all the senses started to die, and all the senses got together and were like, "You need to come back," right? So like, the point is the breath is massively important. It connects our body and our mind, and that's why yoga is centered around it. Anyway, so that's number four, pranayama. And then the next four layers are
Cool
getting
story.
into, dude, man, I learned so much. And getting it from like, I'm secondhand, like this is getting it from like a teacher that has studied this from the time he's 8 years old, right? It's just like he's such a great. It's like he's a guru, man. It's like fuck, it was really incredible. So
Yeah.
the next one's called Pratyahara, I believe. Um, and then what was fucking uh shit. They're gonna be so mad at me. I have it in my book. Let me because I feel like it's important. I took a lot of notes, so and I think you'd be interested in getting the real information too. So it's worth this second here to
Yeah, it's like the
find it.
breath. The breath is another sense. Just like I've heard your intuition is like they said your intuition is like your sixth sense. Maybe the breath is like the seventh sense, right? Because there's
In yoga culture, it's like everything. So
yeah,
that's pranayama. Um, and it was actually like I don't know if you remember me telling you this, but like when on one of the mushroom trips that hopefully your audience is okay with getting the real details, but like I remember breathing into the fire um, on mushrooms and seeing every time I breathed in, it would light up, and then I'd breathe in, and it was like and the heat would get more, right? For some reason, that dawned on me every time that we're taking a breath in, like that's what's happening inside of us, which creates that energy, right? Like the breath is massive. Okay, so I found it. So I told you yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. The next one's pratyahara, which means rejoining of the senses. So remember the story I just told you?
yeah,
The breath went on holiday. So now bringing all those senses back with the breath, right? So rejoining of the senses, it means like your mind. If your mind is like you could be in a conversation with somebody, but like if your mind's gone, it's left, right? It's you're thinking about something different. You're not present. You're not aware in the moment, right? It's like pulling back all your senses into the moment, right? And these next four layers are all about the higher levels of similar to the chakra system, like of the higher states of yoga. So that's pratyahara, the rejoining of the senses. Dharana is fixing the mind, right? So this is number six of the eight limbs of Ashtanga yoga, right? So like fixing the mind, it's again bringing all of the senses, everything back to its truth, right? Like reining everything back in to what it's intended to be. So fixing the mind. If you have basically it's the beginning of meditation, right? So like observing the thoughts, seeing just it's not that you're really fixing anything, but like you're just observing it and letting it go and just detaching yourself from your thoughts, like bringing the awareness that I'm not these thoughts, right? And slowly those thoughts dissipate, they leave you and they leave your experience. And the more that um, you meditate, it's like you're all these patterns and stuff. It's really important for like people who are addicts and stuff, or like people that are struggling with mental health. Like these are ancient techniques that have been practiced forever. And like mantra, the meaning of mantra I learned on this trip is mind protector, right? So when you it's like you're consciously programming yourself with a new thought. So like if you're having all these negative thoughts that you've been bombarded by like fucking that's what the media does to us, right? Just fear mongering and planting these negative seeds in our minds. So like these thoughts are dominating us and like it's the same. That's why like what I touched on earlier with the car anxiety and stuff. Who knows what the fuck subconscious thoughts are happening where like it's difficult for me to just to go from point A to point B. Like it's irrational. Anyway, but when you allow that to settle and detach yourself from these thoughts, like it's a much more holistic way of healing yourself rather than like, let me fucking consume whatever pill that somebody's trying to sell me, right? Fuck with my brain chemistry. Like that,
mhm.
that's not healing. This is healing. So like fixing the mind, that's dharana. Um, and then I feel like there's another thought that I wanted to say. It's not important. Or it'll come back to me. The next one is dhyana, which is the singular flow of the mind, right? So after everything's been fixed, you allowed your thoughts to dissipate. You've detached yourself from them. You realize like, oh, that's I remember. Sorry, the mantra and the mind protector, right? Like you you observe. This is part of fixing the mind, right? Dharana. It's the beginning of meditation, right? You now take a new mantra, mind protector, right? Something that is positive. It's a new thought pattern that you're planting that seed in your mind, right? So it could be anything. It could be I am love, right? You can make your own in whatever language you have, right? But like there's ancient Sanskrit mantras that like we were chanting and stuff, and like I know it's probably out there for some people, but like um dude, I felt the power of like chanting these mantras, like especially this one. Like we chanted it together, and by the end of it, and when I learned what the translation was, I was just like, holy fuck, that shit is powerful. And when you consider people have been chanting this daily for God knows, like from the beginning of time, like almost, or not the beginning of time, but like thousands of years, like it that has an energy to it, right? So like our whole group at the very last meditation, we sat there. And another thing too, it puts you in a state of trance. So we would chant, and it gets you deeper into meditation and stuff. So I had some of the deepest meditations fucking of my life here, which is incredible. So yeah, that's Dharana. And then this
Yeah.
the second to last. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just comment on the mantra singing. I totally am have been getting more into that. Like there's a couple singers I like who I was listening to one of her songs the other day, and like I almost wanted to just start crying. I was like, damn, this is like breaking stuff up for me, just hearing her kind of repeat this mantra. And then I actually pulled out my guitar and I was with a friend and we started singing a mantra that she liked and we like turned it into a song. And I like looked up afterwards. I was like, I wonder if there's any like rules about changing like how long you can sustain one of the mantras for. And I did read it was like, yeah, you're not supposed to change it because then I guess it could get mixed up with other people wanting to sing it and can totally like, so I understand that. So hopefully I didn't change it too much, but it was really beautiful. We sang it for like, we just kind of sang the same mantra for about 10, 15 minutes. And I was just like, wow, I feel fucking amazing. Like I felt
Yeah, and
just so much energy and just felt so beautiful. And last summer when I went to the Tantra festival, somebody was like, "Oh yeah, I was on this canoe trip and we were singing these kirtan songs," and I was like, "Kirtan music? Like what the fuck is that?" And then she was telling me about it, and it's like, yeah, you get together and people are like drumming and they're just like chanting, just like from the movie Eat, Pray, Love. Have you seen that movie?
no, I've heard of it though.
Yeah, you got to see it. So there's a part where he's like, he's there, he brings the girl to like his chanting group, and then she goes to Bali in India to do that. And I was like, damn, like I want to do some kirtan chanting for sure. Like,
Dude,
and there's a
it
story about, we'll have to look it up after, but my friend told me about like the story of the, like where this Sanskrit language came from and like the mantras and like, yeah, there is like obviously a powerful reason and meaning behind why they work and like why they can
yeah,
move energy in you. So I'm totally, that's such a
the
great health modality. And
yeah, dude, it's something that I feel so inspired, and this is what our teachers were saying. It's like at the very end of the closing ceremony, he said, "It's time for you to leave, and it's time for you to take what you've learned back to where you're from." It's like the whole point, and what when you were saying, I don't know if I'm supposed to change it, like at least my teachers, they were very forgiving, and like they look at it as like you even if you do get it wrong, they see the positive of like um
the
that what
intention.
the intention is there. Yeah. So they were very like, uh, but I learned so much about Sanskrit, even like all the different, like, it's our language is very lazy, like English, like, but there's all these like certain sounds that they make by rolling their tongue and shit, like in India, like and that's when you see the little dots and all those like shit on the letters, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like all that represents something. Like when you put like a dash over the A, it means to extend the A, like uh so like
Like
if
the
you were to
whole,
write yoga, right? Just normal with a normal A, it's yoga. But
yeah,
if you were to put a dash on the top of it, it's yoga.
right. Yeah. It's like a
You know
song.
what I mean? Yeah. I wanted to quickly share that one mantra with you. Uh, it's called the Gayatri mantra. And the reason it's so powerful and so important is that it's the first reference to yoga ever. So remember when I told you that 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 monk, that Indian monk, went to China and brought the teachings of the Yoga Sutras and all the scriptures to to China, which then became Zen Buddhism, and you know what I mean, like and the Shaolin Temple and all of that, right? Like he was bringing these. This was part of it. This mantra, like it's the first reference. It's like it's just ancient knowledge. But it goes Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitu Verheyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Na Prachodaya Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Na Prachodaya. Did we sat there? Now consider like a whole group.
Yeah.
We repeated that probably for 40 minutes in this deep trance and like everybody, dude, I'm with my full capacity, my full being. It's like everybody in the room's doing this. It's like we were in another dimension.
Like the
And
drum
being
circle
led,
like the drum circle at the
yeah,
church, right?
for sure. You know what I mean? So it was like it was fucking incredible. I see that we're running down in time, so I wanted to quickly wrap or not wrap up, but like there was two more. Remember, I was going over the eight limbs of
Yeah.
Ashtanga.
Yeah.
So this, remember, we were talking. The last one we left off with was Dharana, fixing the mind. So remember how we said like we're observing what we aren't, which was those negative thoughts and all of that, and then correcting it by bringing in mantras, right? Planting new seeds and like allowing these seeds by repeating it over and over. You're planting this deep seed of like I did the translation of that or that mantra I just sang to you, and it's incredible. I won't go into the translation right now, but it's called the Gayatri mantra. I'm sure I'll talk about it more later with you. But so the next one is dhyana, and this is the singular flow of the mind. So after the mind is corrected, now you're getting into like you're getting back into the truth of who you are, right? The mind is at ease. It's the singular flow of like you've now planted these good seeds. They're starting to blossom, right? Like you're now becoming the your mind is like harmonizing with the world around you and stuff. So that's dhyana, and it's the singular flow of the mind, right? It's starting to come into harmony, unity with. Remember, all these steps is very systematic. We started out with yama, external observations. Then we went to niyama, internal observations. Then we went to asana. So we're starting to like strengthen, or sorry, stretch our spine to get into these deeper states of meditation. Then we went into the breath of pranayama, right? Life force energy. We're bringing that into those postures, which is cultivating all that energy, preparing us to go into pratyahara, which is like rejoining the senses, bringing everything back, untangling our mind, which brought us to the singular flow of the mind. And the last but not least, eighth limb of Ashtanga is samadhi. And that is the highest state, the supreme state of our mind, where yoga, I don't know, you've probably heard this before, but yoga translates into unity and union, right? There's not there's not really an English translation for all of these Sanskrit terms and stuff, but basically that's the way to view it. And remember I talked about earlier too, like there is no I, getting with the Shaolin and stuff, like that's in yoga too, right? When you dissipate your ego and your mind becomes still and it's one with your truth and your being, and you start to see the synchronicities and that, holy shit, I am fucking all of this,
Hmm.
right? I am you, you are me. Like I'm just a fraction of um the way it was explained to me was, if I have a glass, right? And I'm shining light into the glass, right? You see the light bouncing around in there, right? And like the reflections of the glass. Okay. Now if I smash that glass and the glass is now all over the place, right? You can still see the light in all of this, all the pieces of the glass, right? And it's like the point of that is just like we're just separate. Like we've been like we're fractals of the same source, right? And that can be hard for the ego of like, oh, I'm Nathan McCarthy, right? It's like I've separated myself from the truth, and that's how I've been conditioned or whatever. But like when you start to undo all of that, this is the supreme state of samadhi, which is just what yoga is intended to bring you to the realization of um, not just conceptually understanding, but like knowing that within your highest self. Like, um,
You're on a high, eh?
yeah, dude, this is it's been impactful as you could probably tell. Like,
I feel like this is a long time coming. Like I feel like you were supposed to go traveling a long time ago.
yeah, but it's all at the right time. But yeah, that's the last limb of Ashtanga yoga. And dude, yoga is the coolest shit ever. Like this is part of the reason I wanted to come to the East to study it, right? Like you can go to yoga teacher training at anywhere and like um yeah, like but coming to the source, like I really it was important for me to do that because like some people getting back to the group, right? Like you were asking, some people I think had no fucking idea that yoga is like it is what it is, right? I think they might have thought like, oh, I'm gonna be a yoga teacher, and teach some fitness classes. And like,
Right.
not that that's wrong. It's just it's not. It's only one. I like I just explained. It's only the third limb, and like it's not the first limb, and it's certainly not the last. It's only one tiny little component. And the way that it's practiced too is like it's not it's not used how it was first originated, right? Like to go into these deeper states of meditation, like that's not what people do it for back at home. Sure, they might have like a, and it's not to say that it's wrong or bad or anything, but like, and it's not to say that they don't go into shavasana and like have a pretty decent uh, meditation or state of calm and relaxation that, all that's positive. Don't get me wrong. But it's just, it's not the whole picture. And I think some people had no idea. And I remember when I was younger too, like trying to read the Bhagavad Gita and stuff, and like trying to understand yoga, like from the Indian like teachings, and I remember it was like kind of overwhelming to try to piece together on my own. But I did kind of try to, but like um, having teachers and having a structure, like it's it's fucking taught me a lot. Like I've learned so much. I want to humble myself by saying like by not being like I knew what yoga was all about. Like I had pieces of it, but like they filled in a lot of holes for me. And like even that connecting piece of the martial arts thing like was incredible. But like even just from the yogic perspective of like really understanding these 8 limbs and like the first 2 limbs also because it's like a tree too, the way that yoga like yoga is the trunk of the tree. And then you have these 8 limbs that kind of sprout off of it, right? And then on each of those are just like like thicker branches. And then there's 5 more limbs for like yama and niyama. And that's all we got through in the 3 weeks. Um, and I'm sure there's even more branches on each of those 8 limbs of yoga. And yeah, it's just so incredible. Like I fucking learned so much.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you'd appreciate this. I recently learned, my friend was telling me how the chakra systems are connected to our endocrine system. So like each chakra is like connected to a gland in the body. And I was like, holy shit, this is he's really fascinated with the anatomy and physiology. And so he's like, yeah, like your pineal gland, and then like down here it's like your other I'm not an expert yet, like the uh the different glands line up with the chakras. And
yeah,
he was basically saying that like a lot of people get stuck at like the willpower, maybe your heart chakra, and then they like fall back down and like they get
the
stuck.
solar plexus.
The solar plexus.
That's the
Yeah,
will. It's the
yeah.
third one, yellow.
A lot of people get stuck there and they have a hard time like getting through that. And I was like, this is really fascinating. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, have you ever heard of bandas before?
Have you ever heard that before, that the glands are lined up with the chakras? Because I'd never heard that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell you. The bandas are the glands. So like um there's certain we have like mula bandha, there's different ones. There's the one at the pelvic floor. And basically like if you take like a traditional Ashtanga class, you'll hear like your teacher say engage your bandhas, right? So there's at least 3 that I'm aware of, right? The major ones. We have the throat one. So like you might have heard people do ujjayi breathing in like yoga classes.
Yeah,
It's like where you know what it is?
yeah.
It's where you tighten your throat a little bit, right? But that's engaging. We didn't learn much about bandhas, but if anybody's listening that's like an expert or whatever, like forgive me if fucking this is not your mula bandha, but I'm pretty sure it's your mula bandha. But it's these glands here, and there's also something called nadis. I don't know if you ever heard that, but like it's all these nadis are like basically like meridians. People will talk about meridians too. They're just like energy centers within the body of the energy body, right? So like when people are doing acupuncture and stuff, like not that I don't think there's acupuncture in Indian culture. There might be, but there is for meridians and stuff, and that's what they're dealing with. But I think meridians, like there's all these cultural filters of different names, right? So like in India, you have prana. In Chinese medicine, it's chi, right? But it's life force. So it's like, how are you? It's just different labels, right?
Mhm.
In Indian culture, you have nadis, right? These nadi channels and which all connect to the chakras, right? energy systems. In Chinese medicine, it's meridians, right? So however you want to define these things, it's like feel free to interpret however you need to. But so yeah, uh, but the glands and everything, like we were learning about that in Hatha in the book. Like Hatha's the original yoga. Um, it's the most ancient form. It's the original, and the whole purpose of that, like I said, was to be able to sit with a straight spine in meditation with a relaxed body, because the mind follows the body. If the body's not still, the mind will not be still, right? And if the mind's not still, you're not going to be entering any states uh of complete, like
Imagine.
deeper states of meditation. Yeah, you're not gonna fucking transcend. No, I'm just joking, but yeah. So but in when you're warming up and stuff, it's the joints and glands, like they really focus on the glands, which like we never got too in depth with it, but what you're saying is it's something to be considered, and there's a lot to learn about it. We also like we were doing like so there's a type of breathing. Remember I just talked about nadis? So the energy systems of the body. I learned that there's we have the right side is masculine, right? So like this nostril is all about your masculine energy. The left side is all your feminine energy. So there's something called nadi shodhana. it's it's only one type of pranayama breathing. There's many different kinds for different purposes and stuff. Like we have a friend, I'm not going to bring up his name or whatever, but I remember he was talking about fucking neti pots, and I didn't even know what a neti pot was, but he was talking about that he used it and stuff. But basically, it's to clean your
Like your
like
nostrils. Yeah.
yeah, it opens up this channel for your breathing and stuff, which was really interesting. Like like we got to explore that a little bit, not a whole bunch, but anyway, getting back to Nadi Shodhana, it's a breathing technique where you close your nostrils, right? So like you breathe in and then out, and there's different patterns of doing it, but basically it's it's harmonizing, connecting your nadi system and like basically the energy channels of your body to be synchronized. And when you consider like the breathing too, there's like all these cycles and systems. But by closing your nostrils, right? And what I learned, there's so much fucking like subtle layers of the body that I didn't even realize, but like um, we have an active nostril and a passive nostril at all times. So meaning one is more open than the other, and it changes throughout the day, right? So your right might become more open, your left, and that's why when you're doing this like nadi shodhana, like this one could be clogged, right? So like you're trying to breathe into it, and then like the first stage of nadi shodhana is to you find out what your active nostril is just by being like whichever one's more clear, you find out which one is currently active, right? But basically, you're synchronizing and harmonizing the male and feminine energies of your body through, like I said, the right nostril is your masculine energy, your left is feminine energy. We won't go too in depth about that, but fascinating shit. That's just one aspect of pranayama, and like the neti pot is to like clear up these channels to be able to breathe better. And it's incredible, dude. Like so much.
I met somebody yesterday. They were like, "Oh yeah, like they're finally." She's like, "I'm helping teach yoga at my high school," and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like they got yoga at high school now." And they're like, "Yeah, it's really new. They've been trying for a really long time to get yoga at high schools." And I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
Yeah, I'm like they've been trying really hard. Like this is good for you. Like let's get this into school. It's like
Yeah.
then there's probably like bureaucracy. It's like no, like there's too much stretching involved. This is like
Yeah,
too
yeah.
intimidating. Like this is the devil, right?
Yeah.
Like what is to argue? Like
Yeah. Well, actually, like before I came here, I'm not gonna name any names or anything, but there was somebody that is like a born again Christian and in my life, and she was questioning me about like, are you going to learn uh like Hinduism and like Buddhism, and like there was this like to from her perspective and the lens that she views life, it was like I was coming to do this satanic fucking rituals and shit. Like, how dare you chant a mantra that means like divine feminine like blissful fucking love and peace and shit. Like, how dare you fucking chant that in a language that is older than Christ? Just consider that. It's older than the Buddha. And I told you the Buddha is it the year here is different, right? Because the Buddha was before Christ. You know what I mean? So like even just that alone to me, I'm like, holy fuck, the entire construct of what I know in the West, like 2023, like to me, it's just like there's such a significance to that, but like when you it's like an illusion. It doesn't mean fucking anything. Sure, Christ, but like Christ was just one person and like he had teachings, but like there was people before him. So
hmm
who's to say the Buddha didn't affect Christ?
hmm
That would be egoic to think that Christ was just like, oh, he's not part of like the continuum of human beings.
I
Like,
guess there's people that believe that Christ there was nobody before him. Yeah. And that he
yeah, but it's just it's infactual, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
it sounds yeah, it doesn't sound logical.
Yeah, I know. And
It
there's nothing against
sounds
Christ,
ego.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I kind of think Christ was probably a yogi, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he like yeah, I mean it's interesting like because I've met people who like follow Christianity and basically I had this conversation with a friend that when like the whole world shut down and we started to congregate, is that the right word? We started to gather at this church. It just happened to be like a safe place for people to go who had similar interests in what was happening in the world. And your sister and her husband, I saw them there one time, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I met people there who were like big believers in Jesus and like that whole world, but they seemed pretty open to like any concepts or like just hearing other people's lens and truth. And they were so versed in the Bible, like they would be like, oh no, that's not that it says this in this verse. They were so versed in it. I never met people who just like they clearly read the Bible, like probably all of them, like memorized them, understood the literary metaphorical stories. And then there's people who like follow Christianity who have like maybe read some of the Bible or just have digested it as best as they could when they go Sunday and they have a different lens that
Yeah.
they look through it and they believe in it too. But it's funny how there's like two different types, right? It's like
Yeah, there's
you
like
get one,
people that understand and then there's people that follow.
right? And it's not, it's just like they're doing their best too, like looking through their truth lens. But it's like how it's like when you ask a room at church, like how many people have read the whole Bible, and you probably only get like a few hands that go up, and like
Yeah. And a
or
better
read
question would almost be like, how many of you have understood the teachings of the Bible?
right,
You
and
can read it, you can read it all you want, but do you understand what it's
Yeah,
message is,
like
right?
the metaphors and like not taking it literally. And
Yeah.
yes,
And to each their own, right? But I think what the important part to realize is that people are all viewing life through whatever lens that they're looking through.
and it's
So
true
like
for
if
them.
somebody,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And if somebody projects fear onto me, like that I'm going to go learn Hinduism, and I learned actually I learned some stuff about Hinduism where like people can both there's if you go to India, right? The it's not really a religion because in a religion, everybody is centered in worshiping one deity, right? One figure, right? That's what religion is. And you can go to India, both people are Hindu, right? Two people, two neighbors are both Hindus, except one worships Shiva
right.
and another one worships Ganesha or another god. There's multiple gods, and
Yeah,
they're both Hindus, but one is worshiping a god that works for them, and right, and there's no it's no people aren't up in arms about it. It's like it's fine. This is what is working for this person, and it's all under the same umbrella of Hinduism, but um, it's not like satanic to not follow one leader, right? And when you look in other places too, like in native culture, like they see that there's spirit in all types of things,
yeah.
right? Like
Different animals. Yeah,
yeah, the rocks, the
yeah.
water.
Animism. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, for sure. Like single deities and dual or whatever it's called, multiple gods. Yeah, it's I think that was big for me learning that everyone's truth is true to them and like
yeah,
understanding that when someone has a difference of opinion, it's like they have we all have blind spots, right? And so and same with me, my truth like is only as true as much as I want to believe it and what I've experienced. And it's good to just be open and try and accept as many people as you can and accept what is true for them, as long as it's not causing like physical or mental harm. Like yeah, if you studying like Hinduism is like causing that Christian lady to like have all these negative thoughts in her head, which like that could happen. It's like
yeah,
is that your fault or is that something that um why can't she respect that all you're doing is chanting? It's just because what she's been taught that for whatever reason she's not allowed to be open to other gods and other forms
yeah.
of beliefs, and it's
She's
unfortunate.
been indoctrinated into her belief system, right? And like this is the power of meditation is to step back from all these conditionings and this patterns just to bring the awareness back to a higher level of ourselves to recognize that I'm not this. Like this has been it's a operating system or like it's a
Yeah.
program that's within the operating system, but like there's layers to code and shit. You know what I mean? Like
It's like if
not
you
to get too computerish.
yeah, if you grew up like when you're 5 years old and your first school, they said, this is what Hinduism is, this is what Christianity is, and they like laid it all out for you. And they're like, yeah, you choose what feels right for you and follow it. And none of us really know.
Yeah,
Um,
but here's the important part to recognize is that most of these people are basically leading you back to the actual essence and truth of like goodness and love,
yeah,
right? How many gods are out there like fucking you know what I'm saying? Like they're all trying to like bring you like forget about the whichever holy man is trying to present himself. That's why I love the yogis so much.
yeah,
And
it's
like,
so egoic, right? It's like
yeah,
when you have a statue of yourself,
yeah,
wow,
I
they
know.
wrote a whole book about that guy. It's like, yeah,
I know.
he
What
saved the
a
world.
douche.
He probably
No,
does.
but like,
Yeah, they don't want statues of themselves, right? They're
The
like,
yogis don't care because it takes them out of that state, right? They're trying to rid themselves of the ego and be just in samadhi, which I touched on earlier, like um just harmonize with everything and staying in that state, right? Like to then try to put yourself back into the ego that you've transcended and that you've taken so many steps away from. It puts you right back into where you've left and why you're not trying to go back there, right? So like, but people aren't there, especially like somebody that's just following a religious icon. You know, it's like they haven't done the work on themselves. They haven't gone through the process of like stilling themselves and realizing that like their thought patterns and their belief systems are just something that something or somebody else has told them. It's
yeah,
not true self-discovery.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, for sure. Like differentiating what you believe because of experience and what you believe because of what has been imprinted on you when you were 5 years old or 2 years old.
Yeah.
And
And when
how many of those people have analyzed the Bible and like put into practice the teachings? It's like, okay, this is what the Bible says, and it's like, what if you actually follow that and then tell us how you actually feel about it and see if it aligns, right?
yeah.
There's a whole guy,
And that's the thing.
there's a whole guy who did that. He wrote a whole book on following the Bible for a whole year, and it's hilarious.
Oh
Like
wow.
following it literally. He followed like Christianity and then Judaism, and it's hilarious.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you recognize that like it's actually the lack of understanding between themselves and the religion that they're following that because they don't fully understand themselves, they fear for me something that I'm doing that doesn't fit the mold of what they're trying to understand. Or at least this is my perspective of it. Like, but I'm able to be like, that's a fear within them, and like I respect that you have a concern for me that I'm going to hell for fucking
Yeah, I mean,
chanting.
I think something big that came up for me was it's like, okay, you're born on this planet and say you go through 80 years and when you die, there's like option one, you're presented at the gates and you are judged. And they say, based on your life, you get to spend the rest of eternity in bliss, or you get to spend the rest of eternity in danger and excruciating pain. And so that sounds pretty extreme. It's like, so if I was born in the slums in a developing nation,
Yeah.
like I had a disability and I had to like, fight for my life and like capture somebody from Canada for just so I could feed my family and shit. It's like I don't think God's ever gonna forgive those sins. I'm pretty much fucked from, 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Fucked from
And see,
birth.
that doesn't make any sense.
So that versus if you're born, in a very wealthy family and like, you have a really nice life and then you go to the gate. So I'm like, okay, that theory like kind of doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound fair. And and then there's the option of like when you die, it's like that's it, that everything you just did on this 80 years, like, you battled through this, you overcame this, you like transformed, and it's like, okay, like that was just some sort of video game and it's like there's nothing to reflect on and like it all dissolves and it's game over for the rest of eternity. I'm like that kind of doesn't make sense either. It's like energy can't be destroyed or necessarily created, right? It just like is. And then
Yeah.
and so the third option, I guess, is like, I mean, this is where I'm at, is like, a past life and then like your next life, right? And so yeah, I had a friend who was like very Christian and he has two brothers who don't follow exactly what he believes. And in his heart, he believes that because they don't, his two brothers who are blood brothers, because they don't believe in what he believes, that they're going to spend eternity in hell. and like, you know, they're at the dinner table, they're like making jokes, they're like still all like cohesive, but in the back of his head and in his heart, he truly believes that they're fucked at the end of their life and
Yeah.
in hell. But while they're on earth, it's like, have a good time, let's make some jokes, right? But in his head and in his heart, he's like, they're gonna be in hell. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like that's
Yeah. And don't you think that layer that's there within the makeup of that person, don't you think that affects their experience in some way? You know what I mean? Like to have this condemning thought
yeah, that like
deep down in your mind. You know what I mean? It's like judging. It's who are you to judge? Are you God?
yeah, how do you know?
And if you
None of
are,
us know what happens after we die, right?
yeah. And to me, my God is unconditional love,
Yeah. What kind of
right?
God? Yeah, what kind of God like let
Judges.
judges and let you suffer for excruciating pain for eternity?
Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
got a lot of questions for these people. Like,
yeah,
think about
God,
it, dude.
come on, bro.
God made me. If God made me and he's judging me for how he's made me, what the
Yeah,
fuck? It's like it's on you, dude. What the hell? I'm your son. You know, it's
yeah.
like,
I'm your son,
shouldn't you forgive me? Yeah.
Simba and like Mufasa. Like, come on.
Yeah, get it together, God. Like, what the fuck? No, there's so many things that don't make sense, right? But the what does kind of make sense is that we are God, right? We are the co-creators. We are both the judger and the savior. And this is where like the stories of the Bible make sense to me if you get the point that there's heaven on earth, there's heaven within based on how you live and how the world that you create for yourself. And there's also hell based on you what your inner world, right? And your inner world is a reflection of the world outside you. So if you're able to actually take these teachings into your heart and into your mind and into your being, right? If I do bad, I'm going to attract bad. If I do good and I live with integrity and like do the right thing even in the dark, based on love and trying to reduce your footprint of like, or if I'm just trampling all over everything, don't give a fuck about anybody, right? Both both sides of the spectrum and both paths will lead you somewhere, right? And that is to me heaven and hell, right? And it's all on earth, it's all within yourself, right? Two people could be in a room together, right? One person's meditating in complete bliss, stillness, like connected to everything around them, locked in the same box, right? Somebody else could be locked in that same box, pulling their hair out, fucking trying to hang themselves because they're imprisoned, where one is liberated, meditating in the exact same situation, but the inner worlds are vastly different, right? Like to me, that is heaven and hell, and it has nothing to do with anything outside yourself.
Yeah, it's like not a it's not really a physical place. It's a feeling and then a somewhat physical manifestation of like just how your lens of the world. And yeah, because they did like a study on happiness and like whether it's just a chemical thing in our brain where, you know, someone who wins the lottery, like, and their brain lights up and gets released these certain hormones versus somebody who lives in a developing world and they're able to like get a little bit of rice for their family, like the same amount of like hormone lights up. I mean, maybe like the lottery's a little
No,
might be a little bit more flooding, but basically it's like the same happiness level, right? It's like,
it's relativity.
yeah.
Um, yeah, there was something I was going to say, but it's fine. It's not important.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes, so maybe we can bring her to a close and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
last final feelings you want to share.
Thank you, first of all, just thanks for letting like this was a sweet conversation. I'm so happy that I'm able to like, oh, what I remember what I want to say. Thank God I came back. It's dimensions, right? Like when you were talking about heaven and hell, like to me they're dimensions, like within ourselves, right? And that we can access and that we can pull from and bring into this reality, right? Bringing heaven on earth and bringing hell on earth, right? Like it's whatever dimensions that you're tuning yourself into and like then manifesting into reality, right? If you're, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, what I did want to say was thanks for being a reflection and like being part of this conversation because it's been impactful and I'm happy to like impart what I know back to you because you're such an important person to me and a kindred spirit and all this and like especially while it's fresh. So yeah, thanks for being able to do that for me. And then also I did want to touch on I didn't talk about my Asana teacher very much, but like he was so funny and the humor, right? I touched on it a bit in like the before and like he had a way of like first of all, he was amazing physically. Like what the shit that he could do. Because I'm so used to having female teachers, right? That like it's really hard to find like a legit male yogi like in the West that's capable of like advanced yogi shit. Anyway, this my teacher could do things with ease and just like the most incredible shit ever. Like I thought I was pretty flexible, but I felt like the Tin Man in around him. You know what I mean? It's just like mind-blowing shit. His sense of humor and the way that he approached things, like he would like our whole class would be laughing and just like, but he would bring humor into the more especially when it started to get like more challenging. He would always try to bring a smile to our face because he said, "Where the mind goes, the body follows." So like if you're not smiling during your practice, like if your mind is struggling, then obviously your body's going to be struggling, right? But like if you're enjoying your practice, you're laughing, you're not taking it so seriously, like you're working with your body, you're bringing goodness. It's like, yeah, it's just so it's way different than trying to like perfect something because you have it in your mind that you should be so, and it's all your ego, right? It's like it's not important. It's like you're working on yourself in order to just be a better version of yourself, right? So like if you're trying to hurt yourself to perfect this pose that you think in your mind is supposed to be like, um, first of all, you're not ready for that particular posture or pose, and that you should be just working within your own range and your own boundaries and like enjoying that rather than but he would just like he was Indian too, right? So like the way that they talk and stuff, he would be like, anything feel, right? Like we would be like in the most intense fucking like obviously we're feeling shit, right? But the way that he would present it is like easy or no? Like anything feel? Like are you feeling anything in this moment? And like the way that he would say it, it was just fucking so funny because like everybody in the room is feeling it. You know what I mean? It's like very deeply and like uh but he just had a way of like making us all laugh like and then he would almost kind of like act like he would like absolutely destroy us, right? I'm putting that in air quotations, but like the night before and then the next morning he would act like nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like that we're nobody's sore as fuck. You know what I mean? But like it was a lot of fun to be part of and like to go through all that with everybody too. It's like I don't know, there was something about it that was like very wholesome and I made so many fucking great connections with a lot of beautiful people and it was great, man.
Yeah, that's nicely said. That's typically what people say from traveling is it's not the places you go or the activities, it's the people you meet and the experiences and the laughs you share and the really deep conversations. And I think, yeah, if we can bring into our lives a little bit more laughter and a little bit more lightheartedness, like that's the whole point. It's like you don't want to sit in meditation and be like, shut up mind. And you're like really tensing, trying to focus and got to get to samadhi, right? Like, like,
Yeah, that's not it.
yeah, like relax and like have a smile and like be a little bit playful in this type of this crazy life. There's like that it's so there's a lot of forces here. And so, whether you're in a developing nation, and I mean, a lot easier said than done when, if you're fasting for a week and like trying to navigate those feelings, but being able to smile and laugh in whatever situation you are in life and just doing your best not to take it that seriously.
Yeah. Um, One thing, just like what you were talking about, like one thing I learned, and it'll be quick, but and I feel like it's a good ending note, but like what you were saying with like shut up, mind, shut up, mind, shut up, mind. Like meditation is something that we cultivate, right? It occurs. And this is what my teachers told me, right? Like the only thing we do is bring awareness and observation to the practice, right? Wherever you end up, whether it be a deep state of meditation or just observing the thoughts that you're trying to say, shut up, mind, shut up, mind, shut up, mind. To not even say that, just be aware of whatever is basically nurturing yourself as a human being, being like, just witnessing. You're not even bringing thought to it. You're witnessing those thoughts. Um, but
Just making
yeah,
it clear. Yeah,
meditation
making it clear.
is cultivated.
Making
That's
making it like you said as a witness, you're just taking a look at it. You're like and not judging it. And noticing this is where I'm at, wherever I end up. I love that. It's like
yeah, and you're not
where
identifying with it.
this is where my instrument is out of tune today, and this is just having a better picture of it, and then going from there, what you need to tweak. Yeah. I love your outfit. It looks like you're wearing your temple outfit. Nice choice for the episode. Bless. Enjoy the rest.
Later.
Enjoy the rest of the adventure.
I love you.
Love you too, bro.